Good morning, and welcome to Insights from Private Key Capital, where we're going to pull back the curtain on building real infrastructure, Bitcoin infrastructure for real people. I am Jay Bose, a CEO of Private Key Capital, and I am here today for the first time in our West Palm Beach office. I'm actually sitting in my office. Look at that beautiful custom art for Bitcoin that one of our members actually gifted and made for us. Susan is amazing, and we've got some of her art here. So just wanted to give you a early peek. It's late January, and we have some big news coming up. Of course, we have our new Private Key Capital headquarters right here in lovely West Palm Beach, where I am right now in my office. Um, that's we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the soft opening that we will be doing shortly, and I'm going to tell you a little more detail about that. We are also going to be discussing something about from rebranding to restructuring, and I want to in this Insights show, I'm going to be doing it only once a month now, so that I can give you insights as to what we are doing. There are lots of talking heads out there who talk about Bitcoin and whether it goes up or down and sideways. That's not the focus of my show. It is going to be what are we doing as a community, as a team, as Private Key Capital, and that's what we're going to focus on in this show. Usually it's going to be, almost always, it's going to be the last Thursday of the month. And I'm going to give you insights into what we are doing as a group. And we have made some very meaningful progress on our credit union, both from the regulatory side as well as from the product side. And I want to give you some updates on that. But most importantly, I want to remind everybody why we are doing this. Our mission to bring Bitcoin to the world, to the masses, through education, through engagement, by building a thriving ecosystem, that mission remains the same. The mission that Ben started is exactly the mission that we're going to follow. The execution is going to be done differently. The tactics will be different. The strategies will be different. The operational aspects might look different, but the mission remains the same. So let's dive in. First off, an announcement many of you who have been waiting for. We are opening the headquarters, right? Private Key Capital headquarters officially for a soft open on the 5th of February. So mark that on your calendars. 5th of February is the soft open. And what that means is we're going to get our friends and family and club members who can make it here. And we're going to have a couple of interesting speakers. We'll have some food. We'll have some beer and wine so we can engage, interact, and really talk, right? And then we're going to do a more formal opening, a grand opening, for lack of a better term, sometime in March, when we will invite external people, and we're going to, really have a very, very wonderful event, a high quality event to really attract the high net worth individuals and members who will join us here. So first off, let me tell you, for those of you who do not know, a little bit about our building. This building that I'm in right now over here, it's really beautiful. I'm not going to show you the insides yet, but you will see it when you get here, or you might have seen some pictures that Ben has shown. The location is the former PNC Bank building on Belvedere Road. It's 850 Belvedere. It's kind of symbolic, right, of what we are doing. We're turning the financial world on its head with Bitcoin. And it's only fitting that we have a building. Bitcoiners have basically taken over what used to be the old banking infrastructure of PNC Bank. This is not just another office, another space for meetups. It's going to have, areas for full-scale self-paced education. We're going to have private meetings, private member meetings. We're going to explore business opportunities with partners. We'll be building Bitcoin treasuries. And when I talk about treasuries, we actually have a huge vault, an actual vault that belonged to the bank that we'll be using for many of the Bitcoin security, physical security related things. By the way, all the windows over here in this building are all bulletproof, just so you know. And we have proof of it. Actually, someone shot at one of the windows, and we have a bullet mark in it, but it didn't break. So we feel very safe here. This vault that we talk about is not just a Bitcoin vault, but it's actually a real vault as well. So, okay, so the soft opening is going to be on February 5th, which is a Thursday. It'll be from 1 o'clock to 5 p.m. And we're going to drop an email with details on what to expect and an RSVP. I want to limit it to 50 people. So it's first come, first serve. So if you're going to be able to make it to West Palm Beach, please do make sure that you hit the RSVP button. Gloria and Nathan and others will be managing that. We will confirm your participation. And I frankly think this location is so amazing. We are not too far from Mar-a-Lago. We are right in the heart of downtown West Palm Beach, and this is going to be a cornerstone, a total pivotal location from where we can start to expand out the Private Key Capital operations around the country and around the world. So that's exciting news about this location I'm at. And my hat is slipping down, so give me a second. I'm going to tighten this up a little bit. There we go. All right, that's better. All right. Now, the next thing I want to share with you is what I called restructure, not just rebrand. So, we have had an evolution of our brand, and in the Christmas note that I had sent you all, many of you hopefully read it. It talked about this year we're going to have to rebrand a lot of our businesses, and over the past few months we started on that effort, of rebranding. And it's really important because, we are now going to scale. And what we are trying to do is support the mission that we already have, to support the Ben's mission, but we got to do it in a way that we can actually get institutional support so we can scale. And to do that, we started the rebranding effort in Nashville. And many of you know the Nashville office was rebranded as Private Key Club. But here's what I'm starting to find here, and Nathan is starting to find here, is that we actually have structural issues that need to be solved. And that's why it's a restructuring, not just a rebranding. We have to create a very clean structure that allows us to scale, that allows us to serve our customers in the best possible manner, that allows us to bring in large volumes of capital, and that allows us to deploy that capital in the most effective manner, with transparency, with trust, with clarity, for institutional investors as well as our individual investors, right? So it's really important that we start to create separation between the for example, the founders group and VC and whatever other groups that are not a part of Private Key Capital. Those are separate legal entities. And that's a very deliberate and positive step that we are making to make sure that as we build Private Key Capital, it is done in a manner consistent with transparency, scalability, and trust. So there are many ways in this restructuring is going to happen. And I'm going to just give you a little insight. I've restructured many companies before. One is the operational aspect of restructuring, and this basically streamlining operations to improve efficiency. And Nathan has been reorganizing the different clubs, the different departments, eliminating redundant processes, eliminating waste, implementing new technologies. We have implemented, Gloria did a great job at implementing a new phone system, CRM system, so that we know who our customers are, we know what they are doing. and what the new processes that we need to have. So the operational restructure is well underway, and this is going to help us shave costs. It's going to help us become a leaner, meaner company. It is going to save money for our investors, and it is going to create a structure that allows us to grow with technology as well with eliminating redundancies and so on and so forth. The second part of restructuring usually deals with what I call capital restructuring. And if scaling and growing the digital story, the Bitcoin story, and the Bitcoin ecosystem is our mission, which it is, we need to make sure that we can create a structure that allows institutional investments to augment the individual investments that many of the members have made into assets, right? So this method of capital restructuring focuses on a financial restructuring, which will strengthen our balance sheet. It'll strengthen our ability to attract larger sums of money, because if you want to scale, you have to invest into more assets. You have to generate cash flow. You have to have financial statements. And these are things that we intend to do in Private Key Capital and intend to do so in the most capital efficient manner, including, making sure that our structure, whether we structure as a C Corp or a different, whether it's Delaware, whether it's Wyoming, where the tax benefits are there. So we're going to engage in the right sort of conversation, and we already have done that. The third aspect of restructuring is what I will call strategic restructuring. This is where you redefine the company's strategy. It means we might be entering new markets. It means that we might be divesting some non-core, non-revenue generating assets, right? Pivoting to a business model that aligns with our core mission to bring Bitcoin to the masses, to leverage Bitcoin in the financial and energy ecosystems, and to scale the Bitcoin community across the nation. That's our target. It's not just to be in 5 or 6 cities. Our job is to get our message and our programs and Bitcoin to every single person in this country. And so we will be launching a virtual membership that you don't have to be in the city which has a club. You can be anywhere in the country and participate in the programs we have, participate in the Bitcoin economy. So that is something we are working on strategically to restructure the company as well. And then we have what I'll call the management restructuring, right? This type of change cannot be accomplished without bringing in new people, a new board of directors, a management structure that has well-defined roles and responsibilities and accountability. These are things that we have to do as a company. This is not my first rodeo. This is my 4th company as CEO, and I know I've been here for almost a year now, and I'm very aware of some of the challenges that the business has, and I'm very aware of some of the greatest opportunities our company has. And it's really, really important that we hit this ball out of the park. We are not playing for singles. We're going to hit some home runs, and that's what we want to prepare as the Bitcoin wave comes, and it is already here, that our boat is positioned in a manner that actually will allow all of us to benefit from it. All of us will be a part of it. And absolutely, we're going to make sure that we can attract the best kind of talent, right? And finally, a part of restructuring also involves cultural restructuring. And this involves shifting the company's culture to align with the new goals, objectives, and strategy. This means fostering innovation. This means being more professional. This means enhancing collaboration. This means creating the right sort of partnerships and promoting that customer-centric view of what the Bitcoin ecosystem, the Bitcoin community is doing. Because we are going to have competition. We are going to have big banks. I mean, look what happened in Davos. I was watching Brian Armstrong on the same board, on the same panel as some of these old world bankers from France and Germany, and he was eating their lunch. The first thing that I observed was, wow, 3 years ago, we would not be sitting at the big table in Davos. And here was a Bitcoiner, Brian Armstrong, representing us at the big table. We have a seat at the table. The central bankers are sitting there with dumb looks on their faces trying to figure out what this Bitcoin is. And they're being schooled when they say, well, we trust our old world system. Well, Bitcoin doesn't have a CEO. Bitcoin doesn't have a country. Bitcoin doesn't have, it's completely decentralized. And these are things that they don't understand yet, but they will. And they'll be forced to. And so these cultural changes, that culture changes adoption. This is why culture is important. We need to adopt a culture that promotes adoption, that allows us to go to different groups of people in our country, that allows us to appeal to women, that allows us to appeal to other segments that we have not yet appealed to. And that's what's going to broaden our base of membership across the country, right? So some of these methods have been used successfully in restructuring of Apple when Jobs came in. I mean, there's so many different ways in which you can do this, but we feel like we are at a pivotal moment, and we're certainly going to not lose the momentum, not lose what we have already built so far. It is incredible. The journey that each one of us has taken together as a team has been an incredible journey, and we want to now accelerate this into the next phase of its evolution, of its development, of its growth, of its profitability. And with our, the leadership and the vision from each one of our members, from Ben, from all of the other people who are providing insights. But to be clear, Private Key Capital is a standalone new entity with its leadership and vision and regulatory path. And this separation from the old entity to the new entity has to be clean. It has to be clear. And that is what is going to allow us to really navigate what is going to be regulated, financial markets, for example. We already have a credit union. It's a regulated space. You can't just go and do whatever you want. We are already operating in regulated markets. Bitcoin is starting to become native banking services, right? So we have to educate the community what this means. This is no longer going to be the Wild West going forward. We need to start to reshape this. We have to start to play within the rules of the regulated environment if that's what Bitcoin's going to replace. Bitcoin's going to replace the banking system eventually. That is not a small job. That's a huge job. It's a huge responsibility, right? So we are absolutely going to navigate, this environment. We're going to do it in a way that we will be completely correct, ethically, morally, structurally, legally. We're going to do the right thing. And for our members, nothing changes in your day-to-day experience. We're going to just continue to sharpen our focus. We're going to continue to execute better. And Private Key Capital will be its own identity, but it'll be laser focused on delivering real Bitcoin infrastructure at scale, right? So that's sort of the top level view on what we will be doing going forward into 2026. And this restructuring doesn't happen overnight, right? These things take time. It takes thought. It takes a lot of praying. It takes reflection. It requires stillness. And we're going to give it the time it needs. So there's no knee-jerk reactions over here. This is directionally what we are going to do. And we have started having those conversations with thought leaders, with potential new board members, with legal counsel, with regulatory people. We're starting to lay the framework that will allow all of us together, the team that has been there for 3-4 years, everybody's going to be included in it as we go forward, right? That's the whole idea. But we're going to go forward with a new drive, a new mission, and clarity, right? So speaking of my most favorite part, which is the banking services update. So Private Key Capital and Private Key Credit Union, and by the way, one of the parts of restructuring is going to be to create accountable separate divisions or even separate LLCs or separate corporations for different sorts of assets so that we can get the tax advantages. But they all roll up to the parent company of Private Key Capital, but there are going to be separate, segments with separate ownerships, etc. That is all going to get normalized once we get the structure in place, which is what we are working on. So this is just a little heads up, but I'll be giving you, more detailed updates on what does it mean for me, and so on and so forth. But one of the very exciting things happened when we acquired the credit union. It was just a regular old credit union in El Salvador. And by the way, we acquired it at the right time last year, about 6-7 months ago. I was there when we did the acquisition. People are not getting new licenses for credit unions or banks in El Salvador. It's extremely, extremely hard to get licenses for banking or for credit unions, for financial services now. It's difficult. So because we bought an existing credit union, all of the permits and those sort of things got grandfathered in, and the only permit that we had to apply for and we got is what is called the Digital Asset Custody Permit, which was a new permit that allows us as a regulated financial institution to custody Bitcoin in your savings account in native Bitcoin form, right? So this was a big deal. Very few companies, if any, actually, we might be one of the first not only in El Salvador, in the world that actually has the permit to custody Bitcoin in a regulated, not unregulated, in a regulated financial institution, right? So certainly it's the first in El Salvador. And this has been a big, big step. And what we did was over the last 6-7 months, and hats off to our development team, and I will introduce you to the development team on one of my later shows. These are great guys. We've got about 9 people who are working. I'm the chief architect of the system because I do have a PhD in computer science, and I've done a lot of systems design in my past. I've got several patents. So I designed the system, but I've been working for the last 7 months nonstop. We've written thousands and thousands of lines of code. We have met regulatory compliance. And last week, we were able to complete building out our own wallet. This is not some Exodus wallet. This is not some other person's wallet that we took and white labeled. We actually built our own wallet from scratch. We run our own nodes. We run our own Bitcoin ledger. I mean, these are very big steps. Companies take years to do stuff like that. I'm really proud of the development team. They've done a phenomenal job. And what they launched last week was the hot wallet. So as a progression, the first step was that we took deposits in fiat, right? We were a traditional credit union. So the first 100 people came in and they put in money in fiat currency. So we run a regulated savings account just like any other bank or any other credit union. And that part was all done, right? Then we worked really hard towards writing the code, getting the regulatory approvals, and getting all of the integration done between the wallet and the general ledger system, which is regulated, right? Because in a banking or a credit union, it falls under the banking board, even if it's a credit union, which is different from a bank, but they're both under the banking board. That's just what what regulates all financial institutions that are allowed to legally take deposits, for example, or issue credit and loans, right? So what's really interesting is that the banking board always wants to know that if you're going to be giving out loans, that you meet the liquidity requirements. It's called the liquidity test. Now, different countries have different sorts of liquidity measures. Like in the US, it's terrible. I mean, if you get $100 in deposits, you can pretty much give out $100 in loans. I mean, the bank has no money; it's broke. This fractional 4% reserve, it's a scam. I mean, and it's really amazing. And then there's runs on the bank, and they talk about Bitcoin volatility, and I'll talk about that a little bit. But it's terrible. It's terrible. In El Salvador, the controls are much tighter. Actually, we are required to keep 20% liquidity for all deposits, and then the remaining portion we can give out as loans. So that's a 5 times higher standard than most 4% reserve requirements for U.S. banks, for example. So we keep 20%. And what the regulators want to know is, at any instant, do you pass the liquidity test? And what we have designed is something incredible. What we've designed is a system, a balance sheet that actually closes every 10 minutes when Bitcoin settles. So this is not a monthly or a quarterly or an annual report that we make to make sure the Treasury and the regulatory body knows. We are able to provide them complete transparency on exactly how many Bitcoin we have in our collective wallets. I could have 1,000 wallets with all different amounts of Bitcoin. Our system will be able to tell you instantaneously how many Bitcoin we have in our vault, right? So there's 100% transparency from the regulatory perspective to show them liquidity, because they can clearly see, okay, you've given out $1 million of loan. I need to make sure that you have at least 200,000 in Bitcoin sitting in your deposits, right? And we can show that in real time with full transparency. So they're very pleased about that. On the other side, our members, we have complete privacy. See, we don't have to expose member names or who the member is to the regulatory side, because all the regulatory side needs to see is that we are following KYC and that we have liquidity, right? So it's really, really interesting how we have been able to balance the needs of transparency for the regulators and privacy for our members. And this is, again, very unique and new architectures. I filed a patent for that as well. And we are creating intellectual capital, which is going to be very valuable in enterprise value down the road. Now, what we launched was not just the savings account, which was already there. Then what we launched last week was a hot wallet. And the hot wallet is basically a wallet, a Bitcoin wallet, like any other wallet. But you are the only one who has the keys to it. It's an institutional wallet. It sits in our nodes, but you are the only one who has the keys. So that's really interesting, because when you put money into your hot wallet, you can send it out, you can pay someone else in Bitcoin, you can do all the things that you normally do with your wallet. And the next product that's coming out is what we're all eagerly waiting for, which we call the Bitcoin Vault. The vault is, you'll be able to transfer. So each savings account has a hot wallet associated with it, and each hot wallet will have a vault associated with it. When you put your Bitcoin into the vault, you lock it in for 6 months or 12 months, very much like a CD, right? And when it's locked in, that vault has 2 keys. We have 1 key from the credit union side, and you have 1 key. But the money is entirely secure. You can move this money, and I can move this money without both keys being present. So that really creates institutional grade security for the vault. But what it also does is we also have time lock systems. Not only does it make you 4% interest, which your Exodus wallet doesn't give you, By putting it in an institutional wallet, we also give you institutional level security. All these transactions are being carried on in the vault. The vault is completely air gapped. Once you move the money from your hot wallet into the vault, it's completely air gapped. So you won't even be able to access it, right? No one can access it. So the money is very secure. But we've also put a time lock in it. And what a time lock does is it allows for legacy continuity. So, for example, let's say you lock it in, and then for whatever reasons you pass away or you lose your private key, and your wife or your beneficiary comes and says, "Hey, can I have that money? But I don't have access to my husband's or my wife's 12 words." We have put a time lock on it, which will release in 1 year. So in 12 months from that time, the lock will get released, and I will be able to use my key to open it up and give the money to the beneficiary who can legally prove they're the beneficiary. And, the money remains safe and the legacy continuity happens. That's another benefit that you get with institutional vault versus a personal vault. Yet it's the only architecture in the world that allows you to have your own key on an institutional vault, right? So not only are you getting interest, 4% interest on a 12-month lock, 3.5% interest on a 6-month lock, right? But you're also getting institutional security and institutional continuity of legacy. But that's not all. The next product, so that product, Vault product, will be out. I'm not going to give you a date, but it's very close. That Vault product is very close. And as soon as that's launched, that new product is launched, we'll let you guys know. And that's when I'm going to open up the credit union memberships to many more members. The minimum is going to be $2,500 or equivalent, and go from there, right? So after the vault, once the money is deposited, the real big value comes from unleashing the potential energy of the vault, right? You will never be selling your Bitcoin if you can have it my way. I want you to keep that as asset, as a property for your son, for your daughter, for their daughter, and so on and so forth. So not only are you getting a yield, but we'll actually give you credit against your Bitcoin so that you will be able to use that credit, use that capital to go open a restaurant, to create a cash flow business, to invest into mining, to do 100 different things that you want to do without ever having to sell your Bitcoin. When you put your Bitcoin in Exodus wallet, it doesn't do that, right? So these credit products are going to be very, very exciting. And that's just one of the products. There are multiple credit products we're building. And then finally, I'll give you a little bit of an insight, especially as the vault value grows for anyone more than, I would say, 2 to 3 Bitcoin. I'm actually going to offer what are called structured finance products. Typically, these type of structured finance products were only available to millionaires and billionaires, right? But we are going to partner with a Chicago-based options trading firm, which I'm already in conversations with, where we are going to provide downside risk protection to anybody who has more than, let's say, 3 Bitcoin. It could be 5, but I'm going to see. And it's going to be at no cost to the member. And this complicated stuff, there are callers and straddles, and we sell a call option and we use the proceeds of the call option to actually buy a put option, so it doesn't cost you anything, but you get automatic downside risk protection if anything ever happened to Bitcoin, especially when that vault starts to become your biggest asset, right? That's what I'm envisioning is going to happen. So we're going to provide incredible products that are going to give you structured finance products, which will not only help you unlock the capital with credit, but also protect downside. We're also working on a product which is going to be a no liquidation loan. And that's a it's the first of its kind. I'll leave it right now, but that is something I think you're going to really, really get excited about, because it all leads to everything that we are building and offering on regulated rails is going to be transparent. it'll pass all the securities laws. These are non-negotiables. That's what we do in a regulated world. We're not chasing hype. We believe Bitcoin is going to be infrastructure. We're building that infrastructure. And we're building with individuals you can trust. And we're building it in a manner that you have control. Because at the end, I think people have it all wrong when you're every day looking at Bitcoin prices and chasing down whether it's going to go up, whether it's going to 500,000, 700. I think that's all wrong. Bitcoin is about wealth preservation. Bitcoin is about wealth preservation. You see, the volatility of Bitcoin has been its Achilles heel forever. What we are able to do is turn that volatility challenge into an opportunity. See, when you hold Bitcoin long-term in your vault, you're not just weathering the storm, but you're harnessing the potential of growth. So Bitcoin's at 100,000 and you take a loan and you build that loan into a cash flow generating business. Your cash flow is coming in consistently. Whether next month Bitcoin's up or down, your cash flow and your business is less sensitive to that volatility. What I'm trying to do is build a business model that does not rely on volatility, that is not what we call in modeling highly sensitive to volatility, right? And if the Bitcoin appreciates long term and goes up to 200 and 300, great. You can take a bigger loan and create even more cash flows. So the volatility diminishes you if you think only in terms of Bitcoin price upwards. See, Bitcoin is truly a store of value. It allows you to use digital credit. It unlocks liquidity. This credit can be invested into stable cash flow generating businesses. In other words, what we are doing is we're converting volatility into a strategic advantage. Bitcoin becomes a long-term asset that you don't sell. This is how you transfer wealth between generations, and then your sons and daughters to their sons and daughters. It starts to generate steady incomes without ever selling it. That way, you're mitigating the risks of perceived volatility and creating a well-diversified strategy. So this is literally a masterpiece of a structure that we are all getting in early on. The most of the world, I mean, I'm going to be speaking in Fort Lauderdale tomorrow to 350 newbies who know nothing about Bitcoin, but they have a lot of money. I'm going to tell them to put 5 to 10% of their net worth into Bitcoin. And I'm going to tell them why. Because the long-term strategy of holding Bitcoin and using it as a strategic reserve for your own personal balance sheet is what I want you to do. The perspective shifts. In the end, Bitcoin is not a trend. To me, it's a transformative force of wealth preservation. Once you start to understand that, you will start to appreciate how our strategy leverages what has been traditionally a challenge for Bitcoin. And we will be able to create a secure and stable asset that doesn't erode, that doesn't inflate, that doesn't disappear, that cannot be taken away from you for generations to come. That is what we are building at Private Key Capital. So stepping back, let's just again focus on the big picture, on the mission. What matters? What matters is that you, each one of you who has been kind enough to dial in today and listen to me, I appreciate you because you guys are the early adopters. You are the insiders. You are the patriots. You are the brave new frontier that actually took that leap into Bitcoin when everybody else was watching Netflix and thinking Bitcoin is a joke. Well, the joke's on them now. My mission, our mission, Nathan's mission at Private Key Capital, Ben's mission is to bring Bitcoin to the masses, not through speculation, not through sitting and holding it and praying that somehow the price goes up and then I'll become a millionaire, but through education, through real world utility, through our community, by investing into the Bitcoin ecosystem, by investing and building in innovation. We are building the future. We're not sitting on the sidelines like a spectator. Ladies and gentlemen, we are on the field. Super Bowl is on. We got the ball. We have the advantage. And if we don't build on it, shame on us. This is why I'm restructuring the company. This is why I believe that large flows of institutional capital will lift all boats. The boats of our early investors, the boats of our investment community, of our Bitcoin community, come into this Noah's Ark. And together, we are going to shape and we're going to define what Bitcoin can do to the world. I don't expect the banks, regulated banks, to innovate. They never have. They don't have the incentives. They're too big to fail, right? Like a big aircraft carrier, they can't turn around on a dime. We can. And therefore, the thesis says innovation has to come from us. Don't wait for the big bank to innovate and then give you a Bitcoin product. We will build those products and we will start using them. And there's utility value. There is a lot that we can do here. Learn about Bitcoin more deeply. Peel those layers of onion. Think deeply about how you will create a Bitcoin ecosystem business. Come to us, talk to me, and say, Jay, I'm putting Bitcoin. I want to start a Bitcoin business. Give me a loan. We'll work on that. Work on your inheritance planning. If you're a business owner, figure out how you're going to put Bitcoin on your balance sheet. For heaven's sake, Apple and X and Tesla, some of the brightest and the biggest minds in the world, 1,800 publicly traded companies are putting Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Why? Because they know it is useful for their balance sheet. It makes the balance sheet stronger. It is a valuable asset to have. It's sound money. Well, don't be the last ones to start putting Bitcoin on your balance sheet of your small business. Why should the small business start adopting Bitcoin on the balance sheet 5 years down the road, way behind the curve, when Bitcoin's already at 500,000? You lost again, didn't you? You have the opportunity right now. That's why we are teaching people how to hold their own keys, understand the technology, understand how Bitcoin integrates into daily life, understand what having a strategic Bitcoin reserve for your small business means. What happens when you have that Bitcoin on your balance sheet? What kind of capital can you unleash out of that? What could you do with that capital? Think big. So engagement is important. We need to talk. We need to start building these spaces, these virtual spaces, these forums, these relationships. I'm not waiting for people to just, two people to walk into a Bitcoin Ben crypto club. I expect people to engage in communities, in virtual spaces, online, discussing all of these things. How does my small business benefit from Bitcoin? What are the things I could do on my personal balance sheet? What can I do for my inheritance? How can I make sure that I have the best tax advantage? These are the questions we should be asking, because trust and knowledge spreads from person to person. That's our community. We are hundreds of people, thousands of people who are in this Bitcoin community that we are now calling Private Key Capital. And now finally, we have an ecosystem where every deposit, every line of credit, every technology we're building, it's creating a flywheel. Like that book, right? The Good to Great. Good to Great. I don't know if you have read it, but it's a great book. It's that flywheel. Our flywheel is starting to move. Education drives adoption. Adoption drives the use of treasury. Treasury drives the use of demand for banking products. And those products fund more education, more community, more investments into the Bitcoin ecosystem. This is how we are going to onboard the next 1 million people into our Bitcoin community. We're going to quietly, steadily, and irreversibly stay on our path of God, our path of light, of our path of staying on the righteous path, doing the right thing, doing it the right way with the right strategy and right execution. Ladies and gentlemen, this is just the beginning. I will be updating all of you in a month from now on the last Thursday of next month. I'm hoping we'll make a lot of progress between now and then. Just to recap, we will be sending out an email to all of our members, inviting you to the soft opening, the internal opening of our West Palm Beach Private Key Capital headquarters. Please do come if you live in the neighborhood. Please come if you come from far away. We would welcome you, but do RSVP. And it's going to be a very, very exciting month ahead of us. And God bless you, and God bless America.